You're now watching The Hot Seat, powered by XS Energy Drink. When you're drinking XS, you're drinking the best. And now, live from the CSL studio, your host, Nesta Cann.
Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of The Hot Seat, powered by XS Energy Drink. When you're drinking XS, you're drinking the best. Well, we have a lot to get into today, a lot to talk about from the world of tennis, hockey, baseball, basketball, football, you name it, boxing. We've got it here today on The Hot Seat. Yours truly, Nesta Cann, once again. No guest today in The Hot Seat, so it's just me. So we'll start off first by hitting a lot of different topics. We'll start off with tennis. We'll leave the basketball, the free agency basketball, the whole entire NBA finals. We'll get into that a little bit later on. But first, we'll start off with tennis. And Rafi has done it again. Rafa Nadal wins another Grand Slam. That puts him up to number 18, 2 behind Roger Federer. He won his 12th French Open title this past week. And it's crazy because he's doing it coming off of knee surgery. You know, he's had a lot of problems with being healthy, staying healthy, especially with his knees. But we all thought he was done. But it seems like he has a lot more left in the tank. Moving forward, this is the second slam of the year. 2 more to go with Wimbledon and the U.S. Open left, and he's two behind Roger Federer. 2 behind Roger Federer. Rafa Nadal is 2 behind Roger Federer. He did it at the Roland Garros. Of course, he's been dominating the French Open for years. I think he has a record for the most French Open titles. This is his 12th. His 12th. Know what it is? Dominating a certain slam. I mean, I think Federer has been dominating Wimbledon. I think Serena has Wimbledon and the U.S. Open. There's 4 year. So you get the Australian, you have the French, you have Wimbledon, and you have the U.S. Open. You know, it's very hard to win all 4. Some win 2 out of 4, some win 3 out of 4, some win 1 out of 4. But just winning 1 out of 4 means something. But Nadal has been able to be consistent in winning the French Open for years. Won his first in 2005, if I'm not mistaken, 2005. And since then, he's been just consistently winning that slam every single year. Well, we know he's good on clay, so that's without saying. He's been very good on clay at that slam. So that's 12 for Rafi. That puts him at 18, like I said, 2 behind Roger Federer, who's at 20. Novak Djokovic. I just figured out he has 15. 15. Now, I remember when I used to first, years ago, 2004, when I used to work at, I volunteered to work at the U.S., not volunteered, but, I had a part-time job working at the U.S. Open here at Arthur Ashe Stadium here in New York City. And that's the first year Roger Federer came on the scene. The first year. I remember because, you're working. I was, doing a concession stand, serving beer, popcorn, all that stuff. When you're young, you just do any kind of job. And I really got into tennis then. Actually, I used to play tennis when I was younger. My mom got me into tennis. I fell off because I really didn't like it. But my mom, up to this day, says, if you'd have kept at it, you probably would have been, if not a good tennis player, decent tennis player, or at least playing in some tournaments. That's what the coach was telling my mom once he saw me years later. He's like, your son had it. His heart wasn't into it, but he had the skills, Anyway, don't mean to digress off that topic, but I happened to get a job at the U.S. Open, the Arthur Ashe Stadium, and that's when Roger Federer came on the scene around that time. Actually, I think that's when he won his first Grand Slam in 2004, if I'm not mistaken. It's 2004, you're right. 2003, 2004. Look it up. And I was at the U.S. Open, and I didn't know. I knew the name because everyone was talking about him after the whole entire event was over. And you know me being a sports fan, I'm always up to date or always keeping an eye out on all sports. Even though we tend to favor one or two sports more than the other. Like I'm more of a football, basketball kind of guy. I also like my baseball, hockey, and tennis and boxing as well. But when it comes to sports, of course, I would rank it. But it used to be basketball and football, but now football is taking over. So it's now football, basketball. I would say boxing next. Boxing has been off and on throughout the years, but boxing starting to come, exciting again. And then after that is, between baseball, hockey, tennis, and I do a little bit of everything. Well, kept an eye out on Federer, and within 3 years, with a 3-year span, Roger Federer won about 10 Grand Slams in a 3-year span. He was dominating in a 3-year span. That's just 10. He has 20 now. So imagine, years after that, he won another 10. But the thing about it is that Roger got off to a fast start. So the main guys you have right now is Roger Federer. For years, it's been Roger Federer, Rafa Nadal, Novak Djokovic. They've been 1, 2, and 3. Now, throughout the years, either Federer's been 1, Nadal's been 2, Djokovic's been 3. Some years, Federer's been 3, Nadal's been 1, Djokovic's been 2, and then vice versa. Djokovic's been 1, Federer 2. You get where I'm coming from. But those 3 guys, have been consistent within the last 15 years. Like I said, Federer got off to the big start with when he was like 15 Grand Slams. I believe Nadal had about, at that time, 6. Djokovic had about probably 2. But what happens is that Federer kind of stopped winning slams. He kind of, I don't want to say he fell off. He went to a little slump, changed his coach, had a little thing with got married, his wife, and whatever it was. And that's when Nadal made his little surge and got a little closer. And then Nadal started getting hurt, started having injuries. Federer was still in his slump. And that's when Djokovic, the younger one out of all of them, started to make his surge. And now today we see Rafa Nadal a couple of years ago, he's won number 20, which is the all-time record. I think he beat the record when Sampras had it at 15. He won 16 and had the record. And then moving forward is like, how much can you add on before you retire to make this record unbeatable? Well, Roger, I think you have company now because you were supposed to add on to your 20 to make this record not beatable by anyone behind you. But it looks like someone behind you might set that record. So as we stand here today, Roger has 20, Nadal has 18, and Djokovic has 15. So when Roger went downhill and had his 20 and celebrated his 20, Nadal had about 14. And now he's closing the gap. Djokovic is closing the gap. And it's going to be interesting to see within the next, I'll say about 3 or 4 years. I'll give these guys, maybe Djokovic might hang around a little bit longer since he's a little bit younger. But this has been the first time that Nadal has been so close to Federer, meaning being two Grand Slams behind him. Remember, Roger has 20. Nadal has 18. The last time that Nadal was 2 behind Federer is, July 2004, when Roger Federer had 2 Grand Slams and Nadal had none. That's when it first started. So once again, Roger Federer had 2, Nadal had none. So it's gonna be very interesting to see if Federer could, win one of these last 2 Grand Slams of the year, which meaning Wimbledon, in which he's really been dominating throughout the years. I think he has his most success out of 4 slams in Wimbledon and the U.S. Open. So hopefully with the next 2, with Wimbledon and U.S. Open, Roger Federer wins one of these last 2. If not, it's going to be very interesting. With that said, if Nadal does pass Roger Federer, does this make Nadal, I won't say better, but do we rank Nadal over Roger Federer in terms of overall career? It depends who you ask. It's just like saying if LeBron, now don't want to digress too early, but let's say now LeBron has help now with Anthony Davis and whoever comes with him, we to LA. Let's say LeBron wins another 5 championships and passes Jordan. Does that mean that LeBron James has a better career than Michael Jordan? Do we rank LeBron James ahead of Michael Jordan? Some people will say no. Some people will say yes. So it's to each his own. Some people would say yes, we're gonna put Nadal ahead of Federer if he eclipses him and passes Federer when they're both said and done in their careers, and Nadal has more than Federer. Some people would say no. I would say yes, only because we're counting the slams, but a part of me says no because I think that Roger Federer is what he did in his career is amazing. Nadal too, and Novak Djokovic as well. But I'm a Federer fan. I like Federer more, but I have to tip my hats off to Nadal if he does do it, and I think I might have to lean towards more Nadal having a better career, and I'm gonna have to put him ahead of Federer if he does wind up passing Federer for the all-time slams record. So that does that for tennis. Also, Ashley Bartley became the first Australian woman since 1973 to win a French Open. The first Australian woman to win a French Open since 1973. So, big shout outs to Ashley. What's her name? Bartley? Yeah. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. So, moving on to the NHL. Just like in basketball, we had the Toronto Raptors. We had the St. Louis Blues winning their first ever Stanley Cup championship. So, don't want to get too much into hockey, but after being in last place on January 2nd, the Blues were in last place. The St. Louis Blues were in last place on January 2nd of this year. Last place, not in just the Eastern Conference, in the whole entire Western Conference, the whole entire hockey league. They were in last place, the worst record. They made a surge. They got to the playoffs, had a couple of interesting series, and they wind up rallying to win the Stanley Cup and beating the Boston Bruins in the Stanley Cup finals. I was happy that they beat Boston Bruins because I would go crazy if I see another Boston team win another title for any kind of major sport, whether it's the Patriots, whether it's the Red Sox, whether it's the Boston Bruins. Boston has become the city of champions, and I respect that, but being a Buffalo Bills fan, and hating Tom Brady and the rest of the guys, you get tired of seeing Boston win all the time. But yes, they did it, and they actually won in Boston Game 7. What does this mean next year for the Blues? Well, mostly their key players are under the age of 28. It's crazy how they did it too, because new coach, had a rookie goalie, and they still pulled off the ultimate victory in Boston, Game 7. So, big shout outs to the St. Louis Blues. It's good to see St. Louis have another title being, brought to the city after, of course, the Rams left St. Louis and went to LA. So, it's good for the city. Very good. Very good. I'm very, happy to see. I like to see new cities getting titles in different sports. It's very interesting, and it makes new fans, as they would say. So that's great to see. Also, with that said, there was a man who was a big time Blues fan. Now the story goes, he was in Vegas, had a couple of drinks, and he went and he placed a $400 bet on the St. Louis Blues. A $400 bet. Now he's a diehard fan. And he placed a $400 bet on the Blues. And they were in last place. So this is January 2nd when the Blues were in last place. Around this time. I don't know which day he did it, but they were in last place around this time. He placed a $400 bet saying his team is going to win the Stanley Cup. Now, the bookies in Vegas probably look at him like he was crazy. But the Blues wind up, as you can see, they went from last to first and then going all the way. And he turned $400 into $100,000. So, let me repeat that. A fan placed $400 bet, a diehard fan placed $400 bet on the St. Louis Blues, who were in last place, and they wind up winning the Stanley Cup. And he turned $400 into $100,000. That's the story. Now, you know what's so crazy about it as well is the series went 7 games, right? Games after game 6, going into game 7, someone offered him $75,000 for his ticket, and he said no. I mean, it paid off, but if someone says, listen, give me that ticket and I'll give you $75,000, I'm taking it. Because if they lose game 7, you lose everything. So, I mean, that's brave. I would have taken, extra 25, holding on for an extra $25,000. Come on. I would have taken the money, but kudos to him. That's like me going to Vegas and betting on the Buffalo Bills winning the Super Bowl. The odds are probably not stacked, in my favor. So I might be able to make some money depending on how much I bet, but he did it. Even when they were in last place, that's what even made, him even more money, being in last place. But kudos to him, and he got his $100,000. Moving on to boxing. All right, where should we start? Well, Tyson Fury defeated Tom Schwartz to retain his lineal title. All these titles they have in boxing: lineal, WBO, WBA, WBC, IBO, IBF. I can't keep up. I don't know. You see these boxers come into the ring with all these titles, all these belts and stuff. The opponent and the champion come in with so many belts. I'm like, how many belts do they have in boxing? And I think they should just narrow it down to just 3 titles, or maybe just 1 or 2 titles. I don't know. I would say 3. Because by having 3 titles, by having multiple titles, it makes guys want to come together and unify. But having these 5, 6, 7, 8 titles in different weight classes, it's just crazy. When I see guys coming into the ring with belts in other weight classes, and he's fighting another weight class right now, I'm like, give it up. You're not fighting at you're holding 3 belts at 147, but you've been fighting at 154 for the last 2 years. Like, give those titles up. I think that's where it should be. Get those titles up. You're not fighting at that weight class anymore. Just give it up. You understand? Anyway, Tyson Fury looked impressive. I like the way Tyson Fury looked. I always knew he had the skills. At first when I used to hear about Tyson Fury, I'm like, who's this big sloppy guy? It's talking a whole bunch of smack. But when I saw him fight, I was like, wow, he has moves. I like the way he moves, shoulder roll. He's active. He has movement. Most heavyweight boxers, you don't really see that in heavyweight boxers anymore. Back then, yeah, we saw Tyson, those other guys, Muhammad Ali. Those guys used to move. But then we went into the whole phase of the whole Klitschko's, where those guys were just coming in at, 250 strong and just staying there and just, slugging it out right in front of you. Went into that stage. That's when the boxing became boring, the whole Klitschko era and stuff, and they were dominating and stuff. Now you're seeing guys, the boxers, the heavyweight guys, they still have their power, but you're seeing them more, more agility with the boxers now, with the Wilders moving, the Furies and stuff like that. A couple other guys as well. So Tyson Fury, when I saw him fight for the first time, I was like, this guy's pretty decent, whatever. Talks a lot, but he's pretty decent. Fought Wilder, put on a good show of Wilder, even though some people think that the referee counted too slow, he should have lost, but he showed that he wasn't afraid of Wilder. He actually outboxed Wilder a little bit, on points wise. beat this guy Tom Schwartz, was undefeated. I won't say he was a bum, but he's no slouch, but he was a decent opponent. And Tyson Fury showed he outboxed him. Came in as the whole Apollo thing in Vegas. Came in as Apollo Creed. His first time in Vegas, so his first time fighting in Vegas, so it was a big thing for him. I think he says he's gonna fight one more fight, I believe, and then he wants to fight Wilder in 2020. So we'll see how that goes. As far as Wilder goes, I think Wilder and Ortiz has another fight coming up, a rematch, I believe. Wilder and Ortiz has a rematch coming up this year. And then hopefully we get the Wilder and Fury next year. It was supposed to be Wilder and Joshua, but we all know what happened to Joshua. I don't want to talk about that. And I've never been a big fan of Anthony Joshua. People, my good friend Theodore, shout outs to Theodore. We always talk boxing, a good friend of mine, a good coworker of mine. I've never been a big Anthony Joshua fan. He likes Anthony Joshua. There's something about Joshua that physically he looks built and looks strong and he looks nice, but when he fights in the ring, he doesn't have that movement. He doesn't have that finesse. He's just big and he's just strong, but he doesn't really move. He looks good, but I knew something about him was suspect. And we can see, he really can't. I don't know, but it looks like he can't take a punch. It looks like he has a glass jaw. Some people say, "Oh, that's just one fight. He had a bad fight. He had a bad night, an off night." I knew he wasn't ready for Wilder. He was saying Fury, Ortiz, Wilder was ducking him. I had a feeling he was the one ducking everybody. I just knew it. You could just tell when they were interviewing him. Stephen A. was interviewing him, and they asked him questions, and he was stumbling and mumbling. He wasn't like, oh yeah, well, he wasn't very convincing that he wanted to fight Wilder and Fury and these guys. He was just making up excuses or saying, well, we reached out to them, which is bull. But they didn't want to fight us. I could just tell by his whole body language and the way his whole tone of his voice that it wasn't true. If that guy, what was his name? Ruiz, the guy who he lost to. If that guy, and I thought that guy was I won't say a bum, but when I first saw him step into the ring, I was like, who is this butterbean, big roly-poly guy fighting right now? I'm like, this is who Joshua is going to fight, this guy, but the guy had heart and he came out swinging and Joshua got caught. So imagine if that guy does that to Joshua. Imagine what Deontay Wilder, faster, more agility, more speed, more power, ferocious, coming at you. Not just standing in front of you, just throwing haymakers. Like Wilder, Wilder goes crazy with his punches. I don't think, Anthony Joshua can, withstand Deontay Wilder's, attacks, what Deontay Wilder would have coming at him, So, we'll see. Boxing's getting interesting again. Well, especially in the heavyweight division, the heavyweight division fell off for a bit, but now it's starting to get interesting again for the heavyweight division. So we shall see what fights they have coming up in the heavyweight division. Moving on to baseball, we're getting closer and closer to the All-Star break. And the top teams in the league are the Twins, the Dodgers, the Astros, the Yankees, and the Tampa Bay Rays. My Houston Astros are in the top 5. Yes, I'm a Houston Astros fan, in case you didn't know. All right, well, the Yankees, of course, we're in New York City, so our Yankees and our Mets, let's break it down with them. So for the Yankees are getting healthy again. Stanton, Judge, Didi are on their way back. Well, Didi's already back. Judge and Stanton are set to come back off of the DL. The Yankees bats just got a little bit dangerous by making a trade for Encarnacion. However, they still need pitching. So we'll see what Brian Cashman has up his sleeve. Let's see what he can do to get that pitching, because they're trading for bats, but they already have the power, in the bats. They already have a dangerous order lineup. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know if he's going to keep on going with Tanaka, CC, and the rest of the guys. I don't know. So we'll see with the Yankees if they add, some more pitching to help out this pitching staff. As far as the Mets are, for now, staying around the 500 area. I believe they were 34 and 38 at the time, 500 baseball. They're suffering a little bit of injuries too. Syndergaard has been off and on. They're opposite the Yankees. They have the pitching, but they don't have the bats, But even so, they going into the season having so-called one of the top pitching rotations, and DeGrom, Syndergaard, and Wheeler, and the rest of the guys. But those guys can't stay healthy as well. So the Mets are the Mets. Mickey Callaway, everyone wants Mickey fired. Fired Mickey. He doesn't know what he's doing after he came over, from the Indians, and was supposed to be this big time pitching coach or so. Give the guy a break. I mean, I think it was his second season as a skipper for the Mets. Second season, yeah. So I mean, he doesn't have much to work with. They got a new GM. So finally the Wilpons are opening up the bank a little bit. Let's see what this GM can do. So give him another season or so, and let's see what Callaway could do. The thing I want to talk about, and as far as baseball is concerned, the spending spree that we had before the season started. So we had Mike Trout getting extension to this big contract. We had the Nationals spending for Harper. The Padres giving Manny Machado all that money. So with Trout, Harper, and Machado, the big fish in baseball, getting their money. Now, I'm not trying to say they shouldn't get it. They have the talent. The talent is there. But what I have a problem with is now all this money being thrown, in sports in general, being thrown to all these athletes. Now, I'm not trying to say athletes don't deserve a lot of money, because they put their bodies on the line and they go through a lot. However, I feel tying all your money up into one player is like a recipe for disaster. I don't like it. And we can go through some teams in different sports leagues, and we can show you how you don't have to tie all your money up into one player, one or two players. Look at what the Toronto Raptors did. I mean, I know they have Kawhi, but you look at the rest of the roster, they don't have big name guys. They have guys who get the job done. But let's not digress off to that right now. Let's talk about the big spenders. So the Angels, they extended Trout's contract. The Angels right now are 35 and 37. So by putting all your money into one player, how are you able to fill out the rest of your roster? That's what I have a problem with. You put all your money into one or two players, like how they're trying to, like in basketball, once again digressing. You got LeBron, and you got Anthony Davis, and you get another max player. You get 2 or 3 max players, like how the Golden State Warriors did. And yeah, you win championships. Sometimes you don't win it right away, but you win championships. But then you tend to see that the bench is kind of weak. Then you got to settle for 1-year players on 1-year deals for the veterans minimum and things like that. You know, understand? So the Angels who spent and got Trout, 35 and 37. The Nationals who got Harper, right now they sit at 33 and 38. Now, it's still early. There's still a lot of baseball to be played. It's still early. The Nationals sit at 33 and 38. They got Harper. And the Padres with Manny Machado are 35-37. Now, another thing is that sometimes you put all your money into one player. I don't want to say anything, but sometimes a lot of these players, once they get that money, all of a sudden you start seeing the injuries, and we really can't tell when a player's hurt. Players get their money, all of a sudden you get hurt. You want to assess for this? How he's taking the Mets to the bank right now, putting all that money in him, give him that contract. After he gets his money, all of a sudden he has all these ankle injuries. He slips on what did he do? He slipped on a bar of soap in his bathtub, and hilarious injuries that these guys are suffering in the off season. Like, oh, come on, give me a break. You understand? But it's besides the point. My thing is the least spenders in the league are teams like the Tampa Bay Rays, and everyone's been giving the Rays their props for the last 2 or 3 seasons. That owner has done a great job. That owner, that GM in Tampa Bay, has done an excellent job within the last 2 or 3 years. I believe they have so far as the salary cap, they have the most money in the league, and they don't spend it, but yet they're always in competition. They're always on top. They're always in the running. I mean, they fall off at the end of the year because they don't have enough, pitching or enough batting. They don't have enough superstar power to sustain to beat the big boys at the end. But they're always in the running. And what the owner and what the general manager has done over there has been amazing. They're not panicking. They're building their team the right way through the farm system, through the draft. They're getting players at a good price and getting players that fit what they're trying to do. They're not trying to go out there trying to get the fancy names, make the big splash. And yet people are like, how the hell are they in first place? Or how the hell are they in second place? Well, it goes to show you don't have to go out there and get the biggest name all the time. If you know your coach is running a system, get players that fit his system. Just like Bill Belichick in football. Bill Belichick doesn't get big names. Matter of fact, he gets players that other teams don't want, that people think, oh, this player is washed up, he's done. And when they join the Patriots, they look like superstars. Or you say, oh, wow, he wasn't done. He still had more left inside of him. Because great coaches like Bill Belichick know how to get the best out of players who are so-called done or washed up or not any good, or so-called he was a bust. And they go to the Patriots and they look like stars, and people are like, damn, we let that go? That's what we had? Wow, we messed up. Yes, you messed up by releasing him or trading him, but Bill Belichick knew what kind of player he was, and he put him into the system and he made it work. So that's what I'm trying to say. These teams in any sport should get players that fit your system. Stop going after the big names. Oh, like basketball, Kyrie Irving is a free agent. Kevin Durant. Right now, NBA free agency is starting. The big names we're hearing is Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, Jimmy Butler, Klay Thompson. Who else? Who else we have? Kawhi Leonard. All these guys are out there. Kemba Walker. Big splashes. Big names, big splashes. Okay. Now, a lot of these teams get desperate. They got the money. They go and spend it just to get the big name. Okay, cool, whatever. Player comes on the team. Team doesn't work out. You don't get your money's worth. Well, I mean, instead of you going out there and making a splash, I understand sometimes you need to get talent on the team, but some teams are impatient. You understand? I think that teams should be more patient, see what you have, see what pieces you have, and try to build around the young talent. Try to build within the coach's scheme and spend your money properly. That's it. I think that's the way teams should go about doing things, But the Atlanta Braves is another team I want to bring up. Young talent, Acuna, Swanson, Freeman. They don't have any big stars, any big names. I mean, those young talents I just named within Acuna, Swanson, and Freddie Freeman, those are their biggest names. They're young talent. Every time you think of the Braves, you're thinking about rebuilding. For the last couple of years, you've been thinking about Braves rebuilding. They were supposed to go through this rebuilding stage. However, they're rebuilding pretty fast. And what's the Braves' record right now? They're 42-30. 42-30. They don't have a Manny Machado. They don't have a Trout. They don't have a Bryce Harper. I mean, you could say Acuna might be on that level soon. He's getting there. And I think they did extend his contract and gave him some good money. But still, they're not out there spending big money on the big names or trying to go out there and get the biggest name. The Braves are one of the teams like Tampa. They're building from their farm system. They get gathering up a good farm system and then going with their young guns. And they're relying on the young guns. They know it's going to take time, and they're not going to rush it. Let's also remember it. If you build within the draft or build up your farm system the right way, heading into the future, your farm system is one of the strongest farm systems. You could always trade those prospects for big time players. After a while, you get these young players that blossom at some point. They all come together and they blossom at some point. You have those guys, then you have even a stronger farm system. Like, so you have the guys that are blossoming from the farm system that you take from the AAA and you bring them up to the majors. So you got the guys in the majors, and you're telling the team, listen, these are homegrown guys. They're playing right now, and we have more that's coming up. So those guys that are just coming up from AAA or the minor leagues, and they're up playing in the majors, and all of a sudden they're doing well, and you guys are going to the playoffs now. If you really, really want to make a run, you can start trading some of those prospects that you have that are not ready yet. You could trade some of those guys for some veteran players or some big time players if you really want to make that push. So this happened to my Houston Astros. The Astros, for years, they were in last place. I think Sports Illustrated had something in 2015 saying 2017 the Houston Astros will be the World Series champions. It's crazy. They always bring this up. Sports Illustrated, they predicted it. They always, toot their horn by saying, see, we were right. And they were right. We don't know how they got it right, but they were able to see into the future and hit it on the button. So the Astros, they sucked for years, but then they had guys like Carlos Correa, Marvin Gonzalez, they had Altuve. They had guys just coming up, young guns, young guys just coming up. And they stuck with their guns, they stuck with the young talent, and now look at them. All 3-4 of those guys are the top players, or some of the top players in baseball right now. So I think spending a lot in free agency could be good, but it depends on the situation. And I think for baseball it's the worst when you spend a lot. And this baseball money is crazy. It's ridiculous. What these guys are getting in baseball. So that's enough for baseball. I wasn't supposed to be on baseball for that long. But let's go to the National Basketball Association, the NBA. Okay, so the Raptors were victorious over the Golden State Warriors in 6 games, 4 games to 2. My thoughts on that, I think if Golden State was healthy, Golden State would have won the chip again for the 3rd year in a row. They won the chip. Injuries hurt them. I have a lot of friends and family in Toronto, and everyone's saying, so stop hating, even though Durant was there and Clay was there, we would still beat them. Come on, give me a break. Come on. I think Golden State would have. You've been lucky if you win 1 game. I think it'd have been 4-1 Golden State. Maybe 2 I would give it Toronto, but a healthy Kevin Durant, healthy Klay Thompson, everyone healthy on Golden State, even the bench, 4-1. Take that. But kudos to the Raptors. I was actually happy that the Raptors won because, getting to see all my friends celebrating in Toronto. They're celebrating today. The parade is actually today. Celebrating in Toronto. I always, like I said early on with the Tampa Bay, the St. Louis Blues, seen them win their first Stanley Cup, first time for a first city winning the championship. First time Toronto has won their championship. So I always like to see first time teams win. I would like to see the Buffalo Bills win, but that's another story for another time. So it's good to see the Raptors win. It's interesting. I really wanted them to win too because I want Kawhi Leonard to stay with Toronto. Is he going to stay with Toronto? Not too sure. I don't know. Everyone's saying he's going to LA or the Clippers, going to LeBron, blah, blah, blah. We don't know what the man's going to do. So that's what makes free agency so exciting and this whole period so exciting. We don't know what's going on in his head. We don't know if he's trying to do it for himself, for his family. What I'm hearing Toronto is that Canada is giving him, even before they won the championship, Canada says, listen, if you stay with us, you can eat free in the whole entire country in Canada. Remember, not just Toronto, the whole entire Canada. He has a whole entire country behind him. So all of that good stuff. But I want to see Kawhi stay because I just want to see the balance of power stay in the East and not everything in the West. And I think he should stay too because he could do what LeBron did. The East is wide open. The East, of course, we always say the East is weak, but he could do what LeBron did. He could stay in the East, and I won't say easy path to the finals because there's no such thing as an easy path, but he can have his chances are better by staying in the East and getting to the finals, how LeBron was doing when he was in Cleveland. When you're in the West, it's a whole gauntlet from round one, playing all the good teams and and you always got to run into Golden State. If you want to run into Golden State, run into them in the finals. And not run into them in the Western Conference semifinals, So it's better to run into them in the finals than the semifinals, So kudos to Toronto for winning the championship, the first championship. They came out in 1995, I believe, right? I think Isaiah Thomas was their general manager at the time. The whole Marcus Camby, Damon Stoudemire, and all that great Toronto hoopla they had. I remember when they first came out, it was a whole big thing about it. And also they had the Vancouver Grizzlies, who were actually the second Canadian team at the time. But we all know what happened to Vancouver. They couldn't hang on, and they wind up going to Memphis. So Canada only has one team, and that was Toronto. So it's good to see a non-American team win in American sport. I mean, you see it in hockey, of course. Those Canadian teams, most of the championships in hockey came from the Canadian side, the Canadian teams. But other than that, I can't recall any other sport which America allows. They have like an international team playing in their league. So we have hockey, we have all the Maple Leafs, Vancouver Canucks and all those guys, Montreal, and basketball we have Toronto. Football we don't have anything, even though Toronto was trying to take over Buffalo. Baseball, baseball, Toronto Blue Jays. So how did I forget about that? The Toronto Blue Jays. But anyway. NBA free agency. I basically broke that down in my other topics when I was talking about the other sports. All the big names are out there. Let's say Kawhi's out there. Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. Now there's rumors Kyrie signed with Rock Nation. Well, he signed with Rock Nation. There's rumors he might be coming to Brooklyn, to the whole Jay-Z thing. He's coming to New York. Rumors that Kawhi is going out west to the Clippers, where he's from. There's Middleton out there. He's like low end kind of free agent. No one's really talking about him. Jimmy Butler. Think about it. No one wants Jimmy Butler. I'll ask everybody, what do you think about Jimmy Butler? I don't want Jimmy Butler. A lot of fans. I'm not talking about, people in the league. I'm talking about fans. No one wants Jimmy Butler on their team. It seems like he's built this reputation of, being a kind of a cancer to the locker or a guy who has an ego, bad attitude. No one doesn't really like his persona. They don't like his personality now. He was in Chicago. People say, yeah, Jimmy Buckets. He's that dude. They gave him the name Jimmy Buckets. Yeah, he's a cool player, whatever. But once he left Chicago, went to Minnesota, started getting into it with the players in Minnesota. Then he went to Philly, started getting into a thing over there with the coach. It's like his reputation kind of took a hit. So Jimmy Butler's out there. Kemba Walker. I heard Kemba Walker is taking less to stay in Charlotte. So many rumors. It's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Anthony Davis was traded to the Los Angeles Lakers for, was it Lonzo Ball, Hart, Ingram, and 3 first-round draft picks. I mean, I could pull it up right here, but I'm trying to go off the top of my head. I think it's a good trade for both teams. People said that the Lakers gave up a lot, especially with those 3 first-round draft picks. So now the Pelicans have the 1st and 4th pick this year. And, well, we don't know if they have the 1st-round pick next year or the year after that, consecutive years. If it's protected or whatever, that has to be sorted out, I think, later on. But for now, we know that the Pelicans have 2 first-round picks this year. Most likely Zion Williams is going to be picked at number 1. Number 4, they're talking about trading it or maybe keeping it and getting, younger. I like it for both sides. LeBron, it looks like LeBron's going to get another big 3. As we all know, he had his big 3. He formed his big 3 with him, Bosh, and Wade. Then he went to Cleveland. He won 2 chips with them, 2 championships with him, Bosh, and Wade. Then he went to Cleveland, and he had his big 3 with him, Kyrie, and Kevin Love. So, most likely, if you look at that picture and you try to picture this out now, so I guess Anthony Davis will be the Bosh and Love. And we still, if you look for that 3rd piece, most likely it's going to be a guard. Because you got LeBron, a big man, and you need a guard. Like how he had Bosh and Wade and Love and Kyrie. So most likely it's going to be a guard. We don't know. It might be a guard that, they bring in free agent. Or, as it was reported by Woj, they have about $32 million in cap room, so they can get another max player. But they still have to fill out the rest of their bench because they don't have, they have 2 or 3 people on the contract right now as it stands. So we'll see what Pelinka and Jeanie Buss has in store to filling out this roster. They're definitely going to get LeBron some help to go along with Anthony Davis. And with Kevin Durant not being able to play for next season with the torn Achilles and Klay Thompson being out with his injury as well, doesn't look like the Golden State Warriors are going to be a factor come next season. So it's like everyone is trying to stack up, or everyone's trying to, get their stuff together right now while the Warriors take their break. It's just like when Jordan left and everyone went crazy. Ooh-wee, Jordan's not in the NBA anymore. And the Rockets got their shit together. Excuse my language. And they won 2 straight, back-to-back, Houston Rockets. And then when Jordan came back, Jordan put an end to all of that. And Jordan came back and won another 3 straight. So now everyone's celebrating now that the Golden State Warriors, like the Chicago Bulls, they're taking a little break. Everyone is wide open now. Anyone can go and win some chips. But when Golden State gets healthy again, if they keep those core 3, well, 4, if they keep Draymond, Steph, Klay, and Durant all together, I think when they come back healthy, they're favorites to win again. And they could easily, win another 3 in a row. Because they're still young. They're still pretty, fairly young. And I think that they might just have 1 season off. I think after next year's a 2020 season, a 2021 season when everyone's healthy again, they'll still be young and in their prime. We're not talking about 3-4 years later down. We're talking about the year after next. They're still young. I think they're going to be the heavy favorites to come back and win another 3. we'll see. We don't know how those guys are going to come back from injury in terms of Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant. NBA draft is coming up next week, I believe, right? Is it this week or next week? I would say it's next week. Of course, we're hearing the top picks, of course, is basically Zion Williams, RJ Barrett, all the basically the top guys. You see the big board here. So we got Zion Williams, J.A. Morant, Jarrett Culver, RJ Barrett, Cam Reddish. Those are like the top three. Those are the top 4 or 5 guys basically on the board. A lot of people are not a big fan of this draft. A lot of people say, this draft isn't, because I think the names are not sexy. It doesn't go as deep. I think after you hit the top 3 with the Zion Williams, the J.A. Morant, the RJ Barrett, those are the top 3 names that we're hearing. We've been hearing for the last couple of months. Zion, Morant, Barrett. I think they're going to be, like as every year in every sport, there's going to be some of the later guys that are going to turn out to be some good studs. This is where, your scouts, this is where you pay your scouts. This is where the scouts make their money, right here. You don't got the sexy names. Everyone's saying, oh, Bobo, oh, Kobe White. Those are okay players. And a couple of international players we don't know about. Well, that's where you pay your scouts the big money to go out there and find those gems out there. Oh, people don't know about this guy? This guy has been dropped down. It's at pick 18 and he's still on the board. Go and get this guy. So I'm looking forward to seeing who's going to be the next C.J. McCullough or what's the guy that played for the Utah Jazz, the point guard. I'm looking to see who's going to be like him, guys that people wouldn't really know about, who people slept on, and they came out. They were drafted like 20th or so, like Jimmy Butler for my Bulls. He was drafted 28. I remember that, 27th, 28. He was on the bench for a while, while, of course, the Bulls were going through that run with, Noah, Dang, Rose, and the rest of the crew. He was coming off the bench, but as years went by, he was like the 6th man. He was that star coming off the bench, and we saw a future in Jimmy Butler. Draymond Green, they even had this episode where he's able to name everybody that was drafted before him. I don't know if you guys check that out. They have it. Just YouTube it. It was on ESPN. He's able to name everybody that was drafted before him. And I think he was drafted, late first round, second round, or whatever. He's played for Michigan State, right? Yeah, Michigan State. And it's guys like that that you can be able to identify and pick when you get on the clock. So it's going to be interesting to see who becomes those late picks, who become the stars, So my Bulls are picking at, what do we pick? We picked number 7. I'm a Chicago Bulls fan. They have us slated to pick Kobe White from North Carolina. I'm tired of the Bulls picking guards. We've been picking so many guards and having bad luck with all these guards. I don't know what Paxson is doing over there. It's time for Paxson to go. Gar Farmer, Paxson, it's time to go. Like, when are the Bulls going to become relevant again? Anyway, so wrapped up free agency, wrapped up NFL draft, NBA draft, NBA free agency. Football, not much to talk about football. Everyone's going through OTAs and everything right now. I would like to take this time out to send my condolences to Pat Bowlen, who died, the owner of the Denver Broncos, longtime owner for the Denver Broncos, who passed away this past weekend at the age of 75 for Alzheimer's disease. He suffered from Alzheimer's for years. So my condolences to the Bowlen family, and I believe that his wife is suffering from Alzheimer's as well. So that's not good. But they said in the 35 years that he's owned the team, he's only had seven bad seasons. 7 seasons where basically he didn't make the playoffs. So in 35 years, if I own a team for 35 years and I only have 7 bad seasons, I'll sign up for that. Last but not least, the Raiders are on Hard Knocks. So look out for that. It's nothing really big, but it was interesting to see with John Gruden's personality mixed in with Perfect and Incognito and Antonio Brown, all those personalities. You might as well put them on Hard Knocks. So that's about it. So wraps up another episode of the Hot Seat. And, we'll see what happens with the whole NBA free agency. And when that time comes around, late August, early September, football season, I'm ready. I'll be out there at some of the games. We'll be broadcasting some of the games, going to a lot of the games, bringing a lot of different guests in on the hot seat. So, with that said, yours truly, Nesta Cann, wraps up another episode of Hot Seat. Take care and God bless.